that if he says a thing, you can bet your life on it. If he directs you, bet your life on it. You can never go wrong going with God.
Hi, and welcome to Blossom with Busola. Today, where you are going to be blossoming with Busola and my friend. If you don't know Titi, I wonder, it means you haven't been here in a while. She's always here. Let me just say, she's always here on this channel, and she and her family. So it's a great privilege to be able to chat with her again today. It's so good to have you back.
Thank you.
Yeah, wanted to be a medical doctor.
Sure.
But somehow you didn't go into that.
Detour.
There was a detour, a very huge detour, and
Yeah.
you never thought you were going to be a medical doctor again.
Yeah.
You studied some other course.
Sure.
When we had all those chats about you, your husband, the children, family, someone said to me that she picked from what you said and what your son David said, right?
Right.
That you started your medical career at a later stage in life. Like it's not where you started from.
Yeah.
And I said, yes, that's true. And she said it would be lovely to hear your story as different, separate from the family part.
Yeah.
And I'll let you tell the story.
Okay. Right. Thank you so much for having me back on your show. I mean, the last time we were with you and I saw the comment, what people said was quite encouraging. And I've always believed that my story sort of tells of God's goodness in my life, and it has always encouraged people to take a different step and towards their dream and to fulfill their dream. I've seen a lot of people's life turning around just by listening to my story, and that's why I always want to tell it.
Thank you for always being very generous. You, your husband, your whole family.
Thank you
for sharing generously.
Oh, well, it's God's goodness, and that's our job, to tell of His mercy and the testimonies of the good things that He has done for us. So it's always a pleasure. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Right.
I should be thanking you for always making the time. I know
you're making the stage for me to tell it, and I'm grateful for that. Right. From childhood, if I remember, as long as I can remember, I've always said I wanted to study medicine. And for me, I don't think it was one of those children. I've watched my children, they've gone from one profession.
Yeah. I was going to say that children start from what you want to be when you grow up.
A medicine, lawyer,
doctor.
Yeah, exactly. But for me, somehow it was really ingrained inside of me that I wanted to be a doctor. But I didn't know why at that time. And it continued even in my secondary school. I wanted to study medicine, and by the grace of God, I got good. The secondary school SSC, I got good grades that would allow me going. So, well, unfortunately, the condition at home for me at that time wasn't that conducive to study. That's a different story altogether, but it wasn't that conducive for me to study. So I did the much I could, wrote the entrance exam, and by the time the result was out, I didn't get the score to go into medicine. But usually what would have happened is to try it again another year. But like I said, the condition at home, the condition of my life at that time did not permit me writing the exam again. Rather, I just wanted to get out of the house. I was ready to do anything, any course at all in the university, accept anything I could find.
Just to be out of the house. Have your peace.
Exactly. And good enough, they just started the Department of Human Physiology and Anatomy as medical sciences in the College of Health Science.
Was that Uniport?
Uniport, yes. So in Uniport, yeah. So, well, in that way, I was able to get admission to study human physiology. Well, I got in, and we were given a concession that because we were in the College of Medicine, if we make a 2-1, then you could just go straight and write the after the first degree, that you could go straight and write the second MD exam, which is the first professional exam in the College of Medicine, and then start the clinical. If you pass it, then you start the clinical class. I was struggling a lot with a lot of things from home, and
so that continued through the
it continued
undergraduate studies.
Yes, that studying survival was the priority for me at that time. How to eat, how to feed, where to sleep. Yeah, so it was such a struggle, financial struggle. Studying was not my primary focus. It was surviving. So I wasn't surprised that I didn't make the 2-1. And even the 2-2, like I said, it was a miracle. In my final year, we got married. And then I finished the human physiology, my project and everything. And he was encouraging me to go ahead and apply for direct entry, because University of Port Harcourt was not offering direct entry apart from that concession we were given. And my husband was encouraging me to go back to school. Studying and education was no longer my priority, and medicine was the list of things that I wanted to do at that time.
And by this time, you had children.
Of course, as the years were going, I had Princess, and then I had David a little 2 years after. So I had 2 kids, and my husband kept encouraging me. But for me, like I said, that was no longer my priority. I didn't want to do medicine again. I had lost that vision.
So you were okay because you did, or you settled into it?
No, I wasn't doing anything with it, because there was no place for me to work as a human physiologist in Nigeria. Human physiology is more like a research course, right? Okay. In fact, to show you how bad it was, when I was going to be posted for NYSC, they posted me to physiotherapy department. Because there was no place to send me, So it was that bad. I couldn't do anything with my first degree. Rather, I picked interest in fashion and designing. So I would go for my sewing lesson. I would go home, take care of my child, then go for sewing lessons. So that's how I developed my skills in sewing. And I became so good at it. I got English patterns. I was making clothes. I had this dream of really making my line of clothing. And then my husband kept encouraging, because he knew my dream. We had talked about it. In fact, and when he tried to encourage me, at some point I got so irritated by it, and I lashed
to go back to
study medicine. Yes. He was really trying to encourage me, because even my chief
lose your dream.
Exactly. And unfortunately, being the stubborn girl that I am,
everybody knows. Let everyone know that this Dr. Titi is one stubborn girl.
I know. But I thank God for God. Only God knows how to break me. So being the stubborn girl that I've always been, at some point I got so irritated by my husband's encouragement, and I lashed back at him. Lashing back, I wonder if it's because of the loss I felt on the inside, but I lashed back at him, and I told him in these clear words, so because you and God have agreed that your wife will be a doctor, now you want to force it on me. Okay, Pastor Ernest Wampa, I am not a doctor. Do your worst. And he said, no, that's not where I'm going to. I'm just trying to encourage you to fulfill your dream. And poor man, he left me alone. But I think, and I know, well, he said it later that he was just praying for me, because he knew what I was supposed to do. He just kept quiet and continued praying for me. Well, I carried on with my sewing, and I had all the dream of what I wanted to do with my sewing. Now, 4 years down the line, and I had this strong, it was coming from my mind, this strong advice. It was like an advice, or will I say command, or just instructions, like you need to go back to medical school. I was like, how, where, when did that start, and I refuted it immediately, and I was arguing against it. And I'm like, no, I'm not interested. I want to do fashion. I'm already developing myself. I'm already looking for school. Of course, I recognized that this was God talking to me, but I struggled, I argued, I gave every reason. I'm like, I have 2 children. I've done NYSC, I've done first degree. Where would I start from? Why should I do that at this age? And I argued and argued. But at some point, of course, I broke down and I wept sore. And I said, okay, Lord, let your will be done, whatever be the case. The only thing is, you just make sure that you carry me through it, because I don't know I'm going to even do it, So as soon as I submitted, my husband went into action again. He got a teacher for me. He knew there was this guy that was his classmate, and he was very good. While they were in school, he was always their teacher. Like, he was good in sciences, in everything. So he contacted the guy, and the guy was coming to the house to teach me mathematics, physics, chemistry, all over again.
So it was like going back to secondary school.
Exactly. So I had to read all over again, and then I did the entrance exam. The result was
JAMB.
The JAMB, yes, which is the JAMB. The result came out. I scored quite high, but just a little short of the cutoff point for medicine. And I was like, okay, that's it. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm stopping here.
I'm done.
I've
tried.
I've given it everything. But my husband came in again. I was encouraging, you know what, my wife, why don't you just take the remedial form?
Remedial
Is like the foundation
class.
Yes,
that's foundation.
so it's like, you're not just starting from the beginning, you're going to start from below the beginning, I accepted. So we took the remedial form, filled it up. So we paid the fee. And we went to submit the form. The day we were driving to Uniport to submit the form, I started throwing up on the way.
Meaning?
Sister, I was pregnant.
Third child.
I was pregnant. So, oh my goodness. Tell me of obstacles on the...
Don't let Baraka hear that.
No, Baraka is not the obstacle. But I mean, like, the timing, Can do it again and again and again. He's the same God today as He's always has been, yesterday and today and forever the same. There is no reason to doubt God can do it again. First semester, then we did the second semester. I passed, and that's how I was among the 50 that was admitted into medicine from pre-degree. So now I had a child and 2 other children, with like a very little child and 2 other children to start my first year. So Princess at this time was about 5 years. Okay. David was about 3, and then Baraka was just a baby. So yeah. So to start medicine, I had 3 small children in the house. It was really difficult, but good thing, I mean, this is my husband. Oh, he is so invaluable. He had to move his office to the house. Closed down his office. He used to have a standard office with staff and everything, so he closed down his office and then moved to the house. And since then,
so that is how he
colonized my house table. That's how he colonized my table, and it became an office. I mean, look at his computer. So that's how he started using my dining table.
Working from home,
yes.
And he has worked from home
since then. Yes.
So you caused it,
right? So I shouldn't demand the,
No,
that rent, eh?
You shouldn't demand the rent that you say he uses your dining table
Without
and
rent.
pay rent.
Well,
But
that's
you need to help you.
exactly. That's how the man moved to the house to stay with the children. And so that was a big help.
That was it may sound normal now because now work from home is a normal thing, but in those days
Then
it
wasn't.
It was rare.
No. To be honest with you, I never felt prepared for any of the medical exams, which is very normal with medical students. You don't ever feel like you're prepared for any exam. But mine was like double because of all the engagement I had to do. So I went into the exam room. It's a clinical exam with external examiner too. It's a professional exam, so you have external examiners coming. Then I had two of my lecturers. This lady that was termed mean was one of them. But do you know, God used that woman to speak for me. As soon as I sat down, she was like, oh, this woman that has children and she's always early in class. She's a very serious, student and always early. How was I always early? Because when she comes in, she will see me in front of the class. But what used to happen is, of course, I'm driving all the way from the house to the school for most of the days. But my friends would keep a seat for in the front. So when they come in, they see me in the front. And it assumes that you have to be early to class
to get the front seat.
Get the front seat. Anyway, this was my testimony. And then when she said that, the other lecturer was like, yeah, she's a very serious student. She's very serious. Do you know, the external examiner was holding papers like that with all the questions that he wanted to ask. But when these two lecturers said that, he just dropped his papers. And he was like, madam, so how are you? Tell me the question you want me to ask you. Honestly.
What?
I'm telling you. Tell me the question you want me to ask you. Sis, I jumped on malaria. Because that pathology exam, you have to describe what the disease does and what the pathological findings. So for malaria, you find some things in the brain after the person has died. So I knew it very well, fingertips. So I jumped on that and I gave him the question to ask him. And then I spoke my thing. So it was a miracle.
God was on your case.
God was on my case. Because I had so many miracles.
You had miracles.
So many miracles. I remember another occasion. We were expecting this biochemistry exam, and honestly, I was having migraine because I was so stressed out at certain times that I started suffering migraine headache. It was so bad, but I noticed that there were some formulas I had finished cramming in those days, and I wanted to revise them. Each time I picked up those, they were long. It had to do with some chemicals and you have to the formula. They are very long. So each time I picked up those formulas to study, I noticed that the migraine would become so severe and I just couldn't study them. So I dropped them. While that was going on, I had this prompting in my mind to pick up an assignment, a simple assignment that one of the professors had given to us. It had to do with plotting graphs, and I liked plotting graph. So I just picked that assignment and I did the graph. My sister, I went for the exam. Those formulas I was struggling to revise was not there. It was that simple graph that was number one compulsory question, because that was from the professor of chemistry in the department. Oh dear. I remembered what God had been doing in my exams. I remembered how he had intervened, how he had given me miracles. The pediatric one was, everybody knew that pediatric exam was always very difficult. But it had to do with children, and there's so much about children, all the things that all the people
in the world.
Yes, were telling me very fast, and I was answering them. Once they just point and say, oh, this is bilateral jaw swelling. Is that? Oh, subconjunctival hemorrhage. There's like so many things, all those things that they were telling me. And I was passing them. Now, in fact, at some point, the lecturer that was taking me around got tired and had to call the timekeeper. Do we still have more time? 5 minutes more? Because she was tired.
So, very fast. In giving
So,
them
yeah.
the answers.
So she now took me to the table, and that one they will put all sorts of something. Well, to God be the glory, I passed the exam. I mean, that one was the height of those miracles. We finished. I finished medicine by the grace of God, and I did my induction.
Wow. Well done.
So,
and you became a medical
and
doctor.
I became a
in the
medical
end.
doctor.
At what age was that?
This was at 30, because I started at 29. So I think this was at 36, 35, 36.
Okay,
Because
but today now you have completed your
I wasn't okay with just being a doctor, first degree.
Yeah.
I wanted to train. I knew I was much older than my colleagues and the normal age of people that train. After all, I went to medical school with those that were almost half my age, but I still wanted to train. I still wanted to do my specialty, to become either a family physician. That's what I wanted to do. So I wasn't satisfied with being a doctor, which of course I could have continued to practice. I could get my own clinic. I could do a master's.
Yeah.
But I wanted to do a postgraduate training in any of the areas, and I wanted family medicine.
Okay.
I prayed to God, and I said, God, if I can finish my specialty training before 50 years, I will be so grateful to Him. Like, that was my prayer to God, because I was like, I may also have a long way to go.
Okay.
In terms of looking at my situation.
Finished at
and
49.
I prayed. I
finished
finished just before
50.
Yes.
Yeah. Just before.
So God answered my prayer.
Yes. You started your medical training that late. Finished it with in spite of all the obstacles and
including the miracles.
And the obstacles and the miracles.
Because I don't ever forget that. I don't forget that.
Okay.
And of course, even the training was a lot of challenge, because it needed me also leaving my family and going through things. It was quite challenging, but God also came through for me. Yeah, at least a lot of the.
Yes, I know that story. If I ask you to tell that story,
that would be another
video. So but, let's see.
In all, I can say that God is faithful, and I always tell anybody that comes close to me. I mean, people that come close to me know my story, right? And they know that it is a story of trust in the Lord, a story of perseverance, a story of resilience. It's a story of family support. I never forget the support of my husband, and how he has to leave everything to be with me while training and everything.
This one is the only one I have. Seeing how she is struggling in the UK, even if it is to be there and help her, the normal thing, and make her tea when she is living in the morning. That's the little I can do. She's so
That's a long way.
So far as she's concerned, it's a guaranteed thing that she will meet her tea. Just to carry and leave the house. So the little things we do for each other, it goes a long way.
And above all, a story of God's faithfulness. That if He says a thing, you can bet your life on it. If He directs you, bet your life on it. You can never go wrong going with God.
Dr. Titi.
Sir.
Dr. Titi.
Man.
My doctor that does not give injection.
So only people like you live there. So that's my story. And I like telling it because, anybody that wants to, don't give up.
Don't give up.
Don't give up. Your life is not over. Age does not define you. And the beautiful thing, I don't even look it.
Of course you
So
don't.
God has a way of even renewing your age to look like where He's taking you to. So age should not define you.
Listen to the doctor.
Yeah, age should not define you. 50, that is my starting point.
Yeah.
Life begins at 50. Yeah.
And you have many more years ahead of you.
Circumstances should not stop you. As long as you have God, He knows the way through the wilderness. He makes a road in that wilderness, and He provides even waters, rivers in deserts.
Preach it. Preach it.
So-
I didn't remember to say she's also a pastor. So preach it, pastor. Wow.
Yeah.
Keep speaking of the faithfulness of God.
And God did what he wanted to do through this medicine. He told me it was for medical missions, and by the grace of God, we have done a bit of that before coming over. And right now, He's putting into my heart certain things that will be done.
I remember
in
you
the
mentioned
future.
that to me.
Yes.
Last week or 2 weeks ago when we were chatting.
Yeah, and I trust Him to continue that work which He has started in me. He
Keep
will
going,
perfect
girl.
it.
Keep
Thank
going.
you.
God will perfect it.
Thank you. And above all, my son also picked it up.
Yeah, they really picked it up. You must be a proud mother always.
God's grace.
Yeah, thank God.
So I'm glad I didn't give up.
Thank you so much for sharing your story generously once again. Thank you.
Thank
God
you.
bless you. And please keep sharing the story. Keep sharing everywhere to bless people.